think this was a great day for democracy today. This was a great showing by people that their voices can mean something and they can affect some positive change.
And you're specifically referring to members of the public that came out to speak today.
That's correct.
Okay.
And braved COVID and braved being pushed out of the room at times, and really their access was limited to the room, but they fought through it and they got their voices heard, and they should be commended.
And just so the listener knows, we'll be speaking with one of those folks that came out to speak and has been very active in many political issues over the years here, but specifically this latest turns of events at the County Government Center. We'll be speaking with Sandra Oxford coming up later before the end of the hour. But while we're just talking, I want to remind the listener what we're talking about with the Visitors Association. This came up, last year, heading into the fall, that it was on the docket that the county has a partnership with the Visitors Association that funds the Visitors Association, was looking at terminating that contract. And Chairman Doherty put out a statement yesterday saying that tomorrow that the resolution that today's meeting to terminate the Visitors Association's contract simply starts a 60-day clock by which we have to hammer out a new agreement, and quote, we cannot negotiate without terminating the existing contract.
Okay.
So what is that how contracts work?
I'm a lawyer, and I certainly haven't read that contract. I apologize. But I will tell you in general my feeling and what I heard today was, they wanted to start a 60-day clock, and this is their way of doing it. But certainly any two parties can renegotiate a contract at any point. And what was clear to me was that 60-day clock was to hold a hammer over the head of Sullivan County Visitors Association. And if they didn't get everything they wanted, at the end of 60 days, the chairman and/or the county manager would have been authorized to terminate that contract. So it was just a way of, suckering the rest of the board, in my mind, into agreeing to allow the chairman to cancel that contract.
And again, he's saying we cannot negotiate. I mean, that's the exact word. We cannot negotiate without terminating the existing contract. I mean, it would seem to me that, like, if that was the issue, you'd be putting out a request for proposals for other entities at that point.
If that were true in any contractual situation, ask any. That would be like any baseball player that's in the first year of a contract and hits 45 home runs and decides he wants to renegotiate. They renegotiate, or the guy doesn't show up for spring training. It's not. Yes, there are contracts, and negotiations would generally happen when one is ending. But if there was no testimony that I heard today that the SCVA, its board, its management were unwilling to come and negotiate in good faith toward a resolution. Saying that you have to terminate a contract to negotiate it just doesn't make any real sense. Right. The only reason to terminate that contract, or to start the notice period to terminate it, is so at the end of 60 days, you're authorized to cancel it. And that's forcing them to negotiate with a gun to their head.
Right. It's just leverage, and it's entering negotiations, playing hardball. So I want to thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have to get to our next guest, but Steve Vegliante, Chairman of the Democratic Committee for Sullivan County, thank you so much for helping us make some sense of this.
My pleasure, and tell Sandra she did a good job today, and thank you.
Okay, will do. This is Radio Catskill. We're your community radio station. Stay tuned. Coming up, we'll have our next guest.
I'm Maria Hinojosa. Next time on Latino USA. 50 years after President Nixon declared a so-called war on drugs, the U.S. isn't any closer to winning it. We talk about the movement for drug decriminalization and why no victory is possible without health and social justice. That's next time on Latino USA.
Friday afternoon at 2 on Radio Catskill.
Well, this is the local edition. You are listening to Radio Catskill. We're your community radio station. We're keeping you connected. And right now, it's that time of the week. It's a Thursday evening, and we're keeping you connected to the Pennsylvania side of the river, checking in with Wayne County. And to help us do that, we've got Wayne County Commissioner Jocelyn Kramer. Jocelyn, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, Jason, I'm great. Thank you so much for asking. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. We're wading through some of the drama, the Sullivan County governance drama, and I guess you got to get a little taste of that. You can.
I was listening to your program. Yeah, indeed.
You can report back to Wayne County. I mean, we've got a whole bunch of legislators over here. You've only got 3 commissioners, so my guess is you gotta play a little nicer.
We play pretty nice for the most part, Jason, for sure.
All right. Well, so what's the latest? What you got going on? You know, there was I think one of the first things I want to ask you about was, I know there's a special clinic that opened up about testing, but what I didn't realize until we saw something, I think on the county website, or maybe it was another place, we saw something that indicated that special clinic was opening up because the Commonwealth said, hey, you know what, the numbers are particularly not that great in Northeast PA.
That's not my understanding of why this clinic is opening up.
Okay.
Jason, my understanding through our representation to the Department of Health is that there are a lot of counties in Pennsylvania that don't have their own public health office, like Sullivan County, New York does, for example. For those counties, the Department of Health is setting up these testing clinics just to help us get more people tested. And they're short term. You know, our clinic opened up on today, and it's going to be running all day today. 9 till 6 today, tomorrow, 9 to 6, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday also 9 to 6. It is no doctor's note required. You don't have to be symptomatic. You can just drive through and get tested for any reason at all. So we're happy that it's there and an option for people.
Okay, great. And did you have any word of how it went?
So I stopped in myself to check in and see how things went. So far, so good. I felt badly for some of the people that were working it because they're outside a lot, and it's gotten pretty cold over the last week, and it's going to be a cold weekend, but they're making do. It's all outside the former Rusty Palmer complex, what we know here locally is the Rusty Palmer complex. It's at the intersection of Route 6 and 652. And there's signs, so people will see it. They'll know where to go. We tested over 100 people today, and we have the potential to test as many as 450 a day. So we did not meet that quota today. So if you're concerned about lines or availability, I do encourage people to come down. There are tests available. And unfortunately, Jason, I just want to take a second and emphasize that it is a testing site. It is not a vaccination site. Unfortunately, it is a testing site, and the tests are free, but they will ask for an insurance card if you have one. If you don't have one, it's no problem.
Right, and that's the next thing I want to ask about is vaccines. But before that, because forgive me that I'm going to pick on you because you're the official that I've got to talk to about this. But just in hearing you talk about the testing, it brings to mind something that I feel that I don't hear enough in the news that I just wanted to put a spotlight on, which is just, again, the nature of testing. Testing is important. Getting the tests are important, but it doesn't, from my understanding, doesn't really do much unless people follow the proper guidelines after the testing, depending how the test comes back, participating with the contact tracing process, quarantining, and all that good stuff. Would you agree?
Yeah, Jason, I do agree with you to an extent. We're making a lot of decisions based on testing, and by we, I mean all of us out there in the community, right? Other employers whose employees have visited another location and they're coming back to work, they're asking people to test negative. But the most important thing, to be honest with you, if you don't get tested, if you don't have access to testing, the reality is, if you're symptomatic, you need to stay clear of people for 2 weeks, and we need to remember that. And because you test negative today and you're in contact with other people, it doesn't mean you won't develop COVID if you had recent contact. So we need to be smart about it. It transmits similar to, flus that we've had in previous years. Meaning, you could be exposed to somebody today but not develop symptoms for 2, 3, or 4 days, but you still may be able to transmit that to somebody else. So whether you test or not, it's really important. If you have any concerns about your exposure or your actual symptoms, you need to keep yourself away from people for a couple of weeks.
All right. That's even better advice. I can dig it. So, and now onto the vaccines issue. I mean, obviously, this is a national issue that's becoming a global issue.